takes the lead. And meanwhile, Ricky Rudd from and Earnhardt.
In NASCAR, there comes cases of moments, people, and organizations who on paper seemed as though they were destined for greatness. But, for some reason or another, things did not work out in the end. When that happens, many would want to point the blame at a number of reasons why. But for this NASCAR fan and others, there's only one thing that we can ask. What happened? "20 years ago, in 2004, a very unique piece of NASCAR history happened when underdog team Peyton Racing scored the upset win at California Speedway in the Pop Secret 500, winning in what many still to this day believe was an illegally modified car in an age and manufacturer range that should have made the car illegal to even be driven in the race. But by doing so, it gave Volkswagen the honor of being the first manufacturer outside of the United States to win the Nextel Cup Series when number 53 1963 Volkswagen Beetle, powered by Bass Pro Shops, went to victory lane, driven by Maggie Peyton, who became the first woman in NASCAR history to score a victory in both the NASCAR Cup Series and the top 3 series of NASCAR, in a race where she famously drove over Tony Stewart and was even driving on the catch fence at the conclusion of the race, while Trip Murphy flipped on the front stretch after making contact with the wall in a block gone wrong, followed by contact of Jeff Gordon. Now, attempts were eventually made by several in NASCAR to have this win revoked from the record books, and NASCAR stated the following week that the Volkswagen nicknamed Herbie would be a one-time only event in the sport, forcing Peyton Racing to return with a NASCAR-sanctioned stock car for all future events. They certainly did make efforts to race in the bug again, and at the time, NASCAR had originally seemed on board with the idea, but pressure from the 3 OEMs in the sport and the media storm that followed led NASCAR to the decision to prohibit Peyton Racing from racing the bug once again. NASCAR did allow the team to keep their win in the record books, but it didn't come without even more strong criticism from team owners and media members, especially with NASCAR even allowing Maggie Peyton to even compete in the Nextel Cup Series race without any experience in the lower ranks of NASCAR, and with, quite frankly, an unsanctioned car of all things. One thing is for certain though, in 2024, Maggie Peyton's win in the Nextel Cup Series certainly has the largest asterisk next to it in the history books. And I, for one, I'm on the bandwagon of removing it from the NASCAR record books, no matter how cool the Cinderella story really is. Bob Pockrass quoted in an article following that race that Jeff Gordon was reporting to his teammate Jimmy Johnson that Herbie winked at him, but while Jeff had his doubts and questions about Herbie, not a single driver compares to Trip Murphy, who many racing experts attribute the rapid decline of his career to when he suffered a number of mental breakdowns following the race at California Speedway. Trip Murphy seemingly had it all. He had the talent, he owned his own race team, he had the fastest cars, he was a 3-time Nextel Cup champion, he had the Cheeto sponsorship, heck, he even had his own video game. But in an instant, he lost it all. He became obsessed with Herbie after this race. He started voicing to anyone and everyone in the media scene that Herbie was alive. His PR team tried to blame this meltdown on dehydration, but he even requested multiple interview sessions afterwards, but the networks, publications, and even NASCAR were forced to deny his requests. It resulted in Murphy losing all of his sponsors following the season, and by 2005, he only made 3 starts in the NASCAR Busch Series, finishing 38th, 27th, and 35th, and that was the end of his NASCAR racing career. According to many close to Murphy, he truly went off the deep end and even spent some time checked into a mental rehabilitation facility, and even in recent years, Murphy has made an appearance on the Dale Jr. Download where Dale finally asked him what happened in 2004, to which he started shouting in Dale Jr.'s face that Herbie was and still is alive. But while Trip Murphy's fall from grace and the controversial status of Maggie Peyton's win are their own conversations to be had, what doesn't get talked about enough is the complete story of the family racing team of Peyton Racing before and after that legendary race in California. Peyton Racing was certainly a different team, being based out of Southern California, whereas most teams were based in Charlotte, North Carolina. While other teams had large budgets to have large tractor trailers for their race operations, Peyton Racing showed up in just an old pickup truck and trailer. Maggie's father, Ray Peyton Sr., was an accomplished racer in his own right, eventually stepping out of the driver's seat, focusing his attention as more of the team owner and crew chief role, while his son, Ray Jr., took over the driving duties. However, Ray Jr. wasn't doing too well behind the wheel. Oftentimes he found himself crashing out of races, or oftentimes crashing out just in qualifying, resulting in a number of financial worries in 2004, with sponsors dropping every week it seemed. Even Bass Pro Shops, their longtime sponsor, was ready to pull a plug before the 2004 Pop Secret 500. But a deal was met to keep them on board for one more race just in time for the hometown race in California. Ray Jr. was able to find just enough speed to qualify into the Pop Secret 500 on speed, but following his lap the car gave out and he hit the wall very hard, resulting in an injury that today many in the sport swear gave him a career-ending concussion, with various sources citing vision issues for the reason he couldn't race the next day. The wreck also ruined their last stock car in their arsenal, and they had no backups, nor was any other team willing to give them one. However, they made a call to NASCAR stating that they wanted to race the next day with the 1963 Beetle. And while we don't know what that entire conversation was like, it was confirmed later that somebody from NASCAR finally agreed to let them race, stating it should generate a lot of media attention, could look cute, and that they didn't expect it could even stay up to race speed, so they would fully expect to black flag it and end their race. Well, look who's laughing now, NASCAR. They actually gave the bug its own unique template for pre-race inspection. NASCAR officials looked it over end to end and they found nothing wrong with it pre-race other than noting the motor looked weak. Well, in the end, we all know that Maggie Peyton took that bug to victory lane, but what we don't talk about enough is what happened next. The race was good for the short-term race winnings, but overall, the team was still in bad shape. And with NASCAR saying they couldn't let them race the Beetle, things didn't go well. Bass Pro Shops hung on board for the remainder of 2004, but they announced they would depart for Dale Earnhardt Incorporated the next year in 2005. Meanwhile, Maggie Peyton did not return to race in the NASCAR Nextel Cup Series, as her speed just wasn't good enough when trying to qualify to Team Standard Cup cars. She would make a handful of Busch Series starts and attempts in 2005, but it just wasn't meant to be. She also went into a production assistant role with ESPN starting in 2005 and eventually got the chance to be an on-air talent working in roles on ESPN's NASCAR Now, in addition to broadcasting ESPN special showings of skateboarding competitions and other X-Game activities. Now, Maggie Peyton also had a period in her life where she got in some serious personal and legal issues, but that's not really what this video is about. But according to recent stories, she seems to have her life back in order, so good on you, Maggie. As for her dad and brother, Ray Sr. and Ray Jr. would eventually go on to open up a very successful car dealership in California, selling, get this, new and classic vintage Volkswagens. Yep, Herbie was their claim to fame, and they proudly displayed that little bug in the showroom. Now, Herbie would eventually get sold by the Peyton family, selling it at the Barrett-Jackson Auto Auction for $115,000 in 2015, which is even crazier considering the fact that the Peyton family had originally bought the bug for a mere $75 at an old car scrapyard. Now, it's unclear who the buyer was, but they eventually did allow the NASCAR Hall of Fame to proudly display Herbie in the museum for a number of years, as fans remembered that odd piece of NASCAR history way back in 2004. So that's the story of what happened to the Peyton family's controversial victory in 2004. It's a story that had a bizarre impact for many around the sport, but it's certainly a unique moment in NASCAR. And it's also fake and not entirely real in the slightest. And yes, I did just make up more lore in the plot of the 2005 movie Herbie Fully Loaded starring Lindsay Lohan. And just so it's clear, this was my April Fool's video. And side note, much like the note that I had made for Maggie Peyton, I'm very happy that seemingly Lindsay Lohan has gotten her life back in order and she's back to major acting roles again. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please leave it a like, and can we take a moment once again to appreciate the fact that I painstakingly made a full Dale Jr. download thumbnail for this video featuring Trip Murphy, which wasn't easy. I actually had to completely redraw the Dale Jr. download logo for this because I couldn't find a PNG of their logo online, and I studied their thumbnail styles very carefully to make this, so this was just personally something that I thought deserved a shout out to me. Anyways, if you want to see real NASCAR videos like this, I have more on my channel from over the years, and I still anticipate making more in the future. So if you're new here, make sure you subscribe to DannyBTalks to never miss a new video right here on my channel. And until next time, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Bye, guys.